Today we're working on lesson 156 in our math text. That's page 281, and you'll see on the screen that I've written several of the problems from this page, and you're going to complete all of page 281 today. So whatever we don't complete on this screen, you'll be responsible for completing on your own. The rest, make sure you show whatever work that you have done to complete them, and then you'll submit a picture of page 281 for your assignment today. Number 1 tells us to round off to the nearest tenth. This is reviewing what you did yesterday, but I did not have any way, I did not afford any way for us to check your progress on that. So I wanted to make sure I go over these today. So on number 1, you're supposed to round to the nearest tenth. So the first thing I want to do is determine what my tenths place is. And in A, the tenths place is the 8. Your tenths place is always going to be the digit right after your decimal point. Okay, so there's the digit that's going to be rounded. Now, actually, I'm not supposed to underline that one. I'm supposed to underline the one beside it, right? Okay, so if the 8, where am I? Try that again. Okay, no? I don't know. Let me try it again. Yep. Okay. I don't know. It won't go from the top. I guess I'm up as high as I can go. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and underline that 8. That's the digit that's in my tenths place. Now, I'm going to look to its neighbor next door, and that's my determining digit, the 7. That's going to tell me if I'm going to round up or stay the same. So in this one, since there's a 7, 5 or more, you raise the score. 7's more than 5, so that means I'm going to raise the score. That means that 8 is going to become a 9. So for my answer, I'm going to put the decimal point 9. And I'm told that if I'm rounding to a place in the decimals, I'm just going to drop whatever digits came after the place that was being rounded. So if I look at B, 1 and 46 hundredths, the digit in my tenths place is that 4. So I look over here at my determining digit. Is it 5 or more? Yes. That means I'm going to raise the score. So my answer is going to be 1 and 5/10. Anything after the decimal point gets dropped. Anything before the decimal point stayed the same. See, I don't change that. I don't lose it either. I need to keep it. Letter C. The digit in my tenths place is the 0. Well, once again, I can't use that. I'm going to underline it. And the digit next door is going to tell me if I'm going to raise the score or let it rest. And this, once again, is more than 5. So I'm going to raise the score. Anything in front of it will stay the same. I keep my decimal point where it belongs, and then that 0 gets raised to a 1, and everything after that place gets dropped. Now, starting in number 2, you're supposed to round to the hundredths place. So I'm going to find my hundredths place. Oops, I need to switch my colors. Find my hundredths place. And then I look next door, and my determining digit is a 9. 5 or more, I raise the score. Anything in front of where I'm rounding stays the same. So I'm just going to copy that 4.6. It doesn't change. The 2 is going to get raised to a 3. I drop everything after it. That one's done. For letter B, the digit in my hundredths place is this 4. So the 8 is what's going to tell me if I need to raise the score or let it rest. 8's going to make me raise the score. Everything in front of it stays the same. So I start out by writing 7, 0, and the 4 is going to raise to a 5. Everything after it gets dropped. For letter C, I'm going to find my digit in the hundredths place. And in this case, it's this 9. The digit next door is a 2. That means it's going to rest 4 or less, let it rest. Everything in front of that is going to stay the same. So I'm going to write down 0.9, and my 9 stays the same because I let it rest. All right, moving on to number 3. Now I'm going to apply what I have learned. So in 3, it says to divide, and then it says to round off to the nearest tenth. So first of all, 6 cannot go into 25 without remainder. So the first thing I want to do is annex a 0. That meant I had to show my understood decimal. I'm going to extend my division bar. Ooh, I missed that. Put my decimal in my answer. Now 6 goes into 25 4 times. 4 times 6 is 24. That means I had 1 left over. So 6 goes into 10 1 time. Looky there. 1 times 6 is 6. I'm going to have a remainder again, so I want to annex another 0. And this time I have a 4 in front of it because 1 times 6 was 6, 10 minus 6 is 4. 4 goes in front of the next annexed 0. And now 6 into 40, well that goes 6 times, but I'm going to have another remainder. So if I continue this out, I'm going to see that every time I annex another 0, I'm going to get another 6 over top of it. This is called a repeating decimal. But my directions told me to round off to the nearest tenth. Do I have enough information to stop there and round to the nearest tenth? Well, yes, I do. Here's my tenths place. All I need is the tenths place and one more digit for me to round. So if I use my rules for rounding decimals, then everything in front of it is going to stay the same. My 1 is going to raise to a 2. Everything after it gets dropped, and my answer is 4 2/10. That's a rounded answer. All right, on to letter B. First thing I want to do, include my understood decimal. I'm going to annex the 0. I'm going to continue my division bar. So now 9 goes into 79 8 times. And 8 times 9 is 72. How much was left over? I forgot to put my decimal in my answer, my division answer. I need to do that. Okay, so 8 times 9 is 72. 79 minus 72 is 7. So I'm going to put my 7 in front of my annexed 0. Now 9 goes into 70. Seven times, and I'm going to need to annex another 0 here. So 7 times 9 is 63. 70 minus 63 is going to give me another 7. Look there. I'm going to end up getting repeated 7s and 70s, 7 here and 70s on these annexed 0s every time. So that's called another repeating decimal, but do I have enough information to finish my answer because I have to round it off to the tenths place? Yes, I do, because I'm going to use this and the digit next door. So first of all, everything in front of it stays the same, 8 point, and is my 7 in the tenths place going to stay a 7 or raise to an 8? Well, the 7 next door tells me to raise, so that's going to become an 8. So my answer after I've rounded it is 8 8/10. All right, let's try another one. First of all, I have 21 into 43, so I'm going to include my understood decimal. I'm going to annex a 0. I'm going to put a decimal in my answer. That looks like a 1 almost. Make it a dot. All right, now 21 goes into 43 2 times. And 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. I'm going to have 1 left over. I bring down my 0. Now look here. 21 can't go into 10. I've already brought down a digit. So I need to put a 0 up in my answer to show that 21 goes into 10 0 times. I'm going to annex another 0. and then 0 times 21 was 0, right? 10 minus 0 is still 10. So I'm just going to bring down my next annexed 0 so that I have 21 into 100. All right, 21 goes into 100 4 times. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. And I have 16 remainder. Whoop. I could annex another 0 and keep going so that I hope to not have a remainder, but unfortunately, fortunately, I don't have to do that because I really only need 2 digits after the decimal point if I'm supposed to be rounding to my tenths place every time. So everything in front of that circled 0 is going to stay the same. So I'm going to put this over here. 2 point, is the 0 going to stay a 0 or is it going to raise to be a 1? Well, the 4 is 4 or less, let it rest. Therefore, it's going to stay the same as a 0. My answer is 2 and 0 tenths. If I were simplifying, I could leave off the 0.0 because 2 is the same thing as 2 and 0 tenths, and it's a simplified answer. But since my directions told me to round to the tenths place, I want to keep that to show that I've already taken it to the tenths place. All right, on to number 4, right? So on 4A, I have 3 into 26. Now this time I'm told to round to the hundredths. That means I'm going to have to annex enough zeros to get out to the thousandths, because I know that when I round it, I've got to have at least the thousandths place. So therefore, I'm going to just go ahead and put down that I'm going to annex all of those zeros. Put my decimal in my answer. Now I've got 3 into 26. That goes 8 times, and 8 times 3 is 24. That gave me 2 for my remainder. Now 3 into 20 goes 6 times, and 6 times 3 is 18. Well, 6 times 3, 18. 20 minus 18 gives me 2 left over. This should look familiar. So now I have 3 into 20 again. That's going to be another 6. 6 times 3 is 18. I have 2 left over. 3 into 20 is 6 again. So I have a repeating decimal. It's going to keep doing the same thing. But I have enough information for me to round. I'm supposed to round to the nearest hundredth, and all I need is one more digit to round to the hundredths place. So my answer, everything in front of where I'm rounding stays the same, 8.6. And is this 6 going to stay a 6, or is it going to raise to be a 7? Well, it's going to raise to be a 7 because this 6 makes me raise the score. Oops, changed back to blue. 7. So my answer is 8 and 67 hundredths. All right, I'm skipping B. You can do that. Remember to use your shortcut. And then on C, when I look at C, I know right away 38 is not going to go into 14, right? So I know that I'm going to have to utilize that decimal point and my annexed zeros. Well, since I know that I have to round it to the hundredths, I'm just going to go ahead and annex 3 zeros and take it to the thousandths place, and that way I know how far I'm going. All right, switch back to blue here. So 38 going into 140. Well, 38 is about 40, right? That's going to go in my think cloud. Ooh, that didn't look very cloud-like. Okay, so that's 4. I'm going to use my 4 times tables because that's my compatible number. How many 4s go into 14? And that's going to be 3. So 3 times 8 is 24. 3 times 3 is 9, 10, 11. 6. 3 minus 1 is 2. And now I'm going to bring down my 0. Okay, so once again, I go to my compatible number 4. How many 4s go into 26? and that's going to be a 6. 6 times 8 is 48. Ooh. 6 times 3, 18, plus 4 is 22. All right, subtract. 5 minus 2 is 3. I better do a little compare here to make sure I'm on the right track. 32 is less than 38, so I'm good. Now I bring down my next 0, and I go back to my compatible number. 4 into 32 is 8. 8 times 8, oh boy, I'm running out of room. 64. 8 times 3, 24, plus 6 is 30. Ooh, I'm gonna go put it. All right, 6 and 1. Okay, so I still have a remainder, but I have enough information for me to go ahead and finish my problem because I really only needed 3 digits after the decimal point. It doesn't matter that it still has a remainder at this point. I'm ready to move on. So, first of all, I want to decide my digit that's getting rounded. That's going to be this 6, and the 8 is going to tell me if I need to let it rest or raise the score. And in this case, 8 is higher than 5, so I'm going to raise the score. Everything in front of it stays the same, so my answer is going to be 0.37, 37 hundredths. You're going to complete D and E on number 4 and make sure that you have completed all of page 281 before you take a picture and submit.